Good morning, everyone. This is Crisel and Belen, and I am going to discuss the structural models of communication. Communication is often described as the lifeblood of human interaction. However, we see this process has evolved significantly over the decades, moving from a simple one-way delivery system to a complex multi-layered exchange of meaning. To understand how communication works, we will discuss two pivotal communication models. First off is the Shannon-Weaver communication model. So the Shannon-Weaver communication model is also known as the linear perspective, developed in 1948 by Claude Shannon and Warren Weaver. This is often called as the mother of all models, which is originally designed for telecommunications, which views communication as a linear or just a one-way process. So the key concepts of this model is where a message travels from a source to a destination through several steps. These are the steps of this communication process. First off is the sender, through the encoder, through the channel, the decoder, and the receiver. And sometimes there is some noise. So let's see what are the functions of this process. Okay, the first one is the sender. The sender is the person who creates the message. It is also often called as the source of information. For example, the reporter that we are watching through our televisions. So they are talking about an information, they are imparting some knowledge to us, but they cannot see what are our feedbacks or reactions regarding the information that they are speaking about. Next up is the encoder. So the encoder is the transmitter that converts the message into signals. For example, our phones, the human speaker, so the spokesperson of the president is also an example of an encoder. A letter, the microphone, the camera, or the radio. Whenever we are doing a live or a recorded TikTok video about something, our vlogs, it is already called as an information imparting from us. So our encoder there is our phones and our cameras. The radio is also an example of an encoder. Next up is the channel. So the channel is the medium we use to send our messages. It could be the airwaves for the radios, cables for our televisions, and internet, which is the most pivotal thing that we have right now through social media. So this is the channel that we are using when we are posting our videos online. That is the internet. Next up, wait a moment. So next up is the noise. The noise is that anything disrupts the communication process, any barrier or hindrance that prevents the message from being understood. For example, is the internet connection. If it is disrupting, it is already an example of noise. For example, the static sounds whenever we are listening to our radio, when our internet cable or the cable itself on our televisions are being disrupted, that is already called as a noise. Next up is the decoder. The decoder is the one which reconstructs the messages from the signal. This is the one who translates the messages from the sender. Next up is the receiver. So the receiver are the audiences. These are the final destination of our message. So the one who listens, the one who watches, this is called as the receiver. So the characteristics of the Shannon-Weaver communication model, it is a one-way, a sender to receiver communication model, meaning the receiver won't have any reaction to send back to the sender. So the sender wouldn't know what are the reactions of the people who are able to hear or watch what he or she is talking about. The focus of this model is to emphasize the technical transmission and the role of noise in disrupting clarity. The criticism is that it treats the receiver as a passive target rather than an active participant. So the audiences in this model is they're just passive, meaning they're just going to listen and they are not going to give you any response because you're not able to see them. You're not able to talk with them. You're just there as a sender to impart a knowledge, but you won't even get any response from your audiences. And that is the characteristic of the Shannon-Weaver model. So that's it for the first model that we have. Do you understand the first model that we have discussed? It's time for our activity time. So here's what we're going to do. So you're going to get a partner and both of you will visualize how noise distorts a linear message. So one will serve as the sender and one will serve as a receiver. So both of you will have two pens. So one will instruct what are you going to draw on your end on your own paper, and the receiver will decipher what is the sender is asking you to do. So the sender will give three quick verbal instruction to a partner. For example, I am drawing a star inside a box. Okay, so while the sender is also drawing a star inside the box, if the receiver was able to get the message, he or she will also do it on his own paper. And while doing that, the other people around, your classmates, will hum loudly nearby. So let's see if the sender and the receiver will be able to get the instructions correctly. So let's see if have they're going to have the same drawings on their papers. Okay, so this is just a 5-minute activity. Your timer starts now. Okay, so that's it for our Shannon-Weaver model. Now let's go to the another communication model, which is the transactional model or the interactive perspective model. The transactional model views communication as a simultaneous ongoing process where people are senders and receivers at the same time. So unlike the Shannon-Weaver model, which is just having a linear perspective, which is the sender will send a message and the receiver will just listen or watch the sender. In this transactional model, there will be a simultaneous ongoing process of communication. So as the social science evolves, scholars realize that communication is rarely a straight line. So that's why they created this model. In this way, the transactional model has been developed. This model views communication as a simultaneous or an ongoing process where people can be senders and receivers at the same time. So, meaning they are going to communicate with each other. So, you're going to talk with each other, exchanging topics, exchanging feedbacks. So, that is how the transactional model works. So let's see the key concepts of this model. So instead of sender and receiver, both parties are labeled as communicators. So you as the sender can also be a receiver and be a sender again as we continue the communication. So let's see what are the process for this model. So we have the sender and the receiver simultaneously. So the sender encodes the message by turning the codes into mutual language and then delivers the message to the receiver. In the communication process, the sender is in charge of selecting an intended message and encoding it. And the receiver decodes, interprets, and responds to the message of the sender. The receiver may be an individual or a group like us in a classroom. So when your teacher is asking you something or imparting some knowledge, you are also giving a response. So you say yes, you say no if you understand or not the lessons. You ask questions and the teacher will answer. It will answer the questions. So if the teacher is asking a question, you are also going to respond. So when there is a two-way communication, the receiver of the message gives the original sender a response or a feedback. Next up is simultaneity. So simultaneity is when while you are speaking or sending a message, you are also observing the other person's facial expressions as the receiver. So you are deciphering what is the sender's or the receiver's reaction to what you are saying. So you are observing the emotion or the facial expressions, the gestures of the one who are sending messages. So it is also a need for a shared field of experience. Communication is influenced by each person's culture, history, and emotions. Meaning is co-created between the participants. So shared field experience is where our emotions, our knowledge coming from. For example, there are two doctors who are talking with each other. Are they going to talk about flying planes? Of course not. They are both doctors. Of course, they are going to talk about medication or even their patients. So they are sharing their experiences being a doctor or being the one who treats the patients. Same as the person's culture. For example, we are all Filipinos, so we're going to talk about our culture. And you can also share our culture to other foreign to the foreigners. So we're going to talk about our own culture, and those Koreans, Americans will also share theirs. So we're going to share a lot of knowledge inside one topic. So that is why we are having a communication which is co-created, meaning both the sender and the receiver are talking with each other about one topic and they are understanding each other. So the context. The context is important because it is the physical, social, and psychological environment heavily dictates how messages are interpreted. For example, with the context of what they're saying, you will know if they are angry, if they are happy, if they are disappointed on what they are talking about. So for example, when we are talking an inspirational messages. So of course, you are talking about an inspirational messages, you should be happy. You should be proud about the experience you are sharing with your audiences. Next up is the characteristics of the transactional model. So the direction of this model is circular or continuous, meaning the sender and the receiver will continuously talking about the certain topic or context. The focus of this model is to emphasize the meaning making and the relationship between the parties. For example, inside the classroom. So the relationship between the teacher and the students is for them to learn something from the teacher, and the teacher will get the feedback if the students are learning something from him or her. The outcome or the goal of this model isn't just about the delivery, but also the mutual understanding or the building of the relationship between the two parties. Okay, so now do you have any question about the transactional model? Okay, so now it's our mini activity time for this model, for this lesson. So here's what we're going to do. So you will grab a partner once more. So we're going to map how meaning is built and not just sent. So here's what we're going to do. So grab a partner and two different colored markers. So it could be pink, blue, purple or pink, green or yellow, whichever color you have, as long as the both of you have a different colored markers. So here's what we're going to do. So both partners will draw symbols of a recent chat at the exact same time. So what are those symbols? For example, we are talking about a K-pop idol. I'm going to draw a star. I'm going to draw a heart. Whatever symbol you think it might be for that one topic. Okay, so you must cross their lines into each other's space. For example, I am going to talk about my bias in a K-pop group. So I'm going to draw a line from me as a sender to you as my receiver. And you as my receiver will also talk about that same exact topic, and you're going to draw from your end up to the end of your partner. So in the center where colors mix, draw one inside joke or symbol you both understand. So the inside joke, the joke that only both of you understand. And you're going to scribble, jog lines on the edges for distractions like your pings, your mood, your stress, the loud sounds around the classroom, or even the notification sounds that you are hearing nearby. So that will serve as the noise. For example, you're talking with someone and then somebody else called them, that is already considered as a noise. So you're going to draw a line or jog a line like a zigzag line, so symbolizing noises. So that's it. This is also a 5-minute mini activity. Your time starts now. Right, so your time is up. How's your activity? Is it fun? Have you learned a lot? Right, very good. So now, let's see what are the difference between the two models. So let's compare them. So the model comparison, the type of the Shannon-Weaver model is it is linear. It is in linear or a transmission model of communication where the message moves in just a direct line. So the sender being the sender and the receiver will just receive it and will not be able to talk about it with the sender. However, in the transactional model, it is an ongoing or simultaneous exchange of communication where both the sender and receiver are being called as the communicators. So the role of the receiver in the Shannon-Weaver line of transmission or model is this receiver will just only receive the information. Hence, in the transactional model, the sender sends feedback and can also influence a meaning. In Shannon-Weaver line of transmission, it is physical, the noise is physical only, meaning it could just be mechanical or environmental interferences. For example, it is just a disrupt in your internet connection, a low signal on your television antennas. So that's the only noise that we can get on the Shannon-Weaver line of transmission. But in the transactional model, we could get a lot of noises. It could be physical, mental, and even cultural. So there are already personal biases, knowledge, and culture that affects the interpretation. So our mood, our emotional disturbances could also be a noise or disruption in the transactional model. So the context in Shannon-Weaver model is often ignored. The situation doesn't matter much. For example, we are just watching a news report on our television, so we're just going to hear the reporter imparting some knowledge to us, the news report regarding the price hike on the gasoline, but we're not going to discuss it with them because we are just listening through our air cables. They're not going to see what are our reactions. Even if we've got disappointed, they're not going to see it or observe it. So unlike a transactional model where the context is essential to its meaning, between situation, relationship, and environmental are all vital. So that's it for the process of communication, Shannon Weaver, and transactional model of communication. So, in conclusion, the Shannon Weaver model is excellent for understanding the technicalities of how information travels, identifying where a signal might break down or how noise affects a medium, and the transactional model is better for understanding human relationships, social dynamics, and why two people might interpret the same sentence in completely different ways based on their shared history. Okay, so that's the difference between the two communication models. Do you understand what we have discussed today? Have you enjoyed our activities? Okay, so now we're going to have a take-home activity for these two models. So take up your papers and let's write what we're going to do. So here it is. The communication flip. That's the title of our activity today. So you're going to create a 60-second video, a TikTok or a reel style. It's like just a mini vlog that is a minute that will just run for a minute. So create a 60-second video that demonstrates the transition from linear or the Shannon-Weaver model to a transactional communication model. So by the way, this is a group activity. So form a 3 to 5 member group and you're going to get our communication flip video. So scene 1, we're going to use a glitch or a black and white filter. One person speaks to a frozen receiver, which is where the receiver is not able to give any reaction to the sender. So we're going to add some noise, static sounds, text blocks to show the message is failing. The scene two, the next scene that we're going to do is for you to use vibrant colors on your video. So both people are already talking and reacting at once. So you're going to use a split screen or overlays to show their auras, share jokes, emojis that are overlapping with each other, which means you are already communicating with each other. So you're going to add one sentence caption. In scene one, you're going to caption it, for example, noise stop the signal, or there is a barrier that stop the communication process. And then in scene two, you could say the RS built the meaning, or we are already sharing our emotional context with each other. So that's it. Do you understand what we're going to do with our take home activity? All right. So that's it for now. Thank you so much for being my receiver today. Until our next meeting. Bye.